Going ghost for a man is probably one of the hardest things, but it is a mandatory thing in order to transcend into your newfound identity. See, when it comes down to you truly seriously trying to build up your physique and your money as well as your social status, one of the things that I had to realize personally, fellas, was in order for me to achieve that, I had to go through a period of solitude where I had no distractions, right? Especially after my divorce that led me to being homeless. I had to sit there and take accountability and say, you know what? In order to become him, what does that look like? Well, number one, it means removing distractions, right? It means being in a period where no one recognizes me, no one is checking for me, no one gives a fuck about my life. And so during that period, most men have two options. You can either, one, stay the same, or two, actually put in some effort, have some motion in your life, and get off your damn ass and actually make a conscious decision to improve consistently daily. And so that's what I chose. But unfortunately, the reality that sets a lot of men back is that, you know, they think about the journey and they think about, I don't want to have to do this for X number of days before I see the results. And what I'm here to, convince you of is that what happens when you don't put in the effort? What happens when you don't try to become the most, sexually, financially attractive, person you can actually become? Well, the reality is your results are always going to be the same. You're never going to truly experience what this life has to offer for a man, right? Before we go further into this topic, I want to share this video with you.
Going ghosts and then having a glow up without anybody knowing, and then you pull up like a year later and you're like a whole different person. I feel like that is one of the biggest horror moments that you can have in your life. Like there's so much people out here these days that just talk about what they're gonna do. But if you've let your results speak for themselves, that's just a whole nother level of respect.
A man always has to let his results speak for itself. There's no way around it, because when people look at you, they don't care about your intentions. They don't care about what your aspirations are in life. They care about the results at the end of the day. And so when I'm sitting here and I'm, working with men and I'm telling them, hey, how serious are you about getting into shape? How serious are you about transforming your life, right? If you're going through a breakup, how serious are you about getting over that person that walked away from your ass and saying, you know what? I'm going to let that person walk away. I'm going to let them do whatever they want to fucking do. And I'm going to now, focus on myself. I'm going to focus on building, who I know I should have been. All right. See, when it comes down to transformation, the transformation in and of itself is not hard. The part of mentally saying, you know what, I'm going to set out and I'm going to do this shit and I'm going to see it to fruition, that's the difficult part. And so a lot of guys will sit here and will cope with the fact that, if somebody doesn't accept me for who I am, then we'll stay stagnant in that same place. We'll stay stuck, coming up with every possible excuse other than the one excuse that's actually going to move the needle forward. And that is, you know what? Let me take accountability. Let me do what I need to do so I can get the results that I desire. You know what I mean? See, when I started to fully embrace solitude, fully embrace going ghost, what that allowed me to see was, number one, I was a lot stronger than what I thought I was. Now, you got to keep in mind, this is me now seeing that even though my body was out of shape, even though I was fucking cooked, right? Even though I didn't have a woman in my life, even though my finances wasn't in order, I started to now believe that I was capable of more. And therefore, my internal world started to reflect on the external world. And I started to see like, oh shit, you know what? I got my first client. Or, oh shit, I started to see that my body was finally looking like, if you're going on IG, you know what I'm talking about, where you see other fitness influencers and you're like, damn, that's, I feel like that's out of reach. And the thing is, Nothing in life for a man is out of reach. The only thing that's out of reach is the limitations that you put on yourself, that you place on yourself. And that's what I realized going through that period of, solitude. I placed a lot of limitations on what I was capable of doing. You guys know I'm competing in bodybuilding competition, and to even sit here and win my first competition and think back on when I was overweight and fat and homeless, it blows my fucking mind because of the fact that I'm like, damn, if I would have had that mindset 5 years ago or 6 years ago, where would I have been today? And the reality is, that's one way of looking at it. But the reality is, I still made an effort, and therefore today looks a lot different than 5 years ago, where I was continuing to cope. I was continuing to come up with excuses. I was continuing to say that the fucking dating market is cooked. So when you are trying to truly embrace this idea of going ghost, let me share a few things that helped me to embrace this newfound journey that I was on. The first thing is acceptance. Understand that you are exactly where you're at because you either allowed certain things into your life that wasn't beneficial, that wasn't pouring into your life, and therefore you decided that that's exactly what you deserve. You decided that, no matter what I do in life, that's what it's going to return to me. And that's how I started to feel. I felt that, I'll never get rich. I'll never be able to provide. I'll never be able to have the physique that I truly desired because of the fact that, number one, I wasn't around other people that were doing the same thing. Everyone that I was around was out of shape, overweight, was, spending their last check on dumb shit. And so when I broke away from the old identity and I started to embrace and recreate this new identity, during that period of me sleeping in my car, that's when I started to realize that the reality that I want, the reality that was truly going to come my way, was going to happen with not only my mind, but actually taking action, having motion in my life. And that's why I always come to you guys and I say, as men, you need to have motion. Motion, what does that look like? It's not some grand gesture. It's not sitting here and, having a win every day. Because during your journey of solitude, during your journey of going ghost and coming back as him, you're going to have L's. You're going to have, some, it's going to be one of those things where you're seeing progress, but then you're going to have a roadblock, and it's going to put you in a situation where you have to face it, head on and say, you know what? Do I learn from this and grow? Do I allow this dark period in my life to actually propel me towards where I want to go? Or do I sit here and give up? And what happens is, and I'm not going to lie, even with me, when I had when I had to go back and forth with court and, it was the whole child support and everything like that, knowing that I didn't have money and knowing how much I had to pay up front, that was a huge, mental deterrent. It was a huge, mind fuck of just how the fuck am I going to, how am I going to pay this without, getting my ass thrown in jail? And so instead of, at that time I sat there and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm probably, I'm gonna just throw up my hands, run away, and not show up in my life and not show up for my son. But then something hit me and said, what if it all works out? What if you become exactly who you said you were going to, fucking become? And that's when I was like, okay, there's always that possibility. And you have to keep that in mind, that as you are leveling up, as you are getting into the gym and you're working on your aesthetics, there's always that possibility that you can become who you say you're going to become. And it's not easy. It's not glamorous. You're going to have a lot of dark days, but that is a part of the process to becoming him. It's the price you pay for admission. And most most of us, we're not willing to do the hard shit on a consistent basis. And so the first thing, like I said, was just the acceptance of where I was at. And then moving from that acceptance phase, there was the motion, creating action. And I'm a firm believer that the quickest, you don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to have all the knowledge in terms of how to build your physique or how to increasing your finances, but you do have to make an effort on a consistent basis daily to figure out those things, right? Figure out one step, one thing that's going to move the needle forward. With my physique, it was Planet Fitness. Now, a lot of you guys may say Planet Fitness is soft. You can't really build a physique. I'm here to tell you, my physique up until this point was built in Planet Fitness. And it's because what I've realized is that whenever I was going to the gym, I saw guys that were in the gym, but they weren't putting in work. The difference between me and them was I had a lot of pent up aggression that I used as fuel to sculpt out the body. And as I started to lose the weight, get my jawline back on point, as well as just the confidence coming back in, that's when I realized that, you know what? It's not a matter of what facility you go to. It's not a matter of if you pay this much to go to this gym or you pay a lesser amount. It's all how you approach that situation. And for me, I approached Planet Fitness like I was a fucking athlete on a $1 million contract, because I knew that the only way that I was going to step foot back into the game of life was, number one, taking my body serious. And so, as you've probably heard a lot of entrepreneurs say, the only way that you're going to get in, the only way you're going to be able to produce wealth is you got to make sure your health is on point. And it's so true, because the things that you do in the gym, you can transfer that into business, like the discipline, showing up consistently, even when you don't feel like it, right? Having a game plan as to what you're going to accomplish once you go into the gym. Same thing with business. And that's why I always say fitness, your physique, this whole body game essence, it's all the foundation for becoming him, becoming greater than the previous version of yourself. And when you start to, take accountability, and then you have that motion in your life, the next thing is don't fucking quit. I don't care how many times you have setbacks on this journey of trying to become him. You cannot listen to those that are doubting you. You can't listen to, your family, your friends. You can't listen to the opinions that are flooding your thoughts on a consistent basis. You have to be detached from all the bullshit. In order for you to truly transcend into what you want to become, you have to be detached, because the only way that a man is truly going to be who he said he was going to become is he has to be so cold in terms of what he's allowing into his mind that nothing is going to deter him. And like I said, on that journey, when I was hitting those roadblocks, when I was, I had my first client and then things didn't work out, and then I was trying to figure out other stuff. Those were they were stumbling blocks along the way. They were deterrents along the way. And what I said was, you know what? Every deterrent is making me stronger, instead of saying every deterrent is setting me back. And having that mindset shift was what allowed me to stay up late trying to figure out what's the next plan. It's what allowed me to continue to show up in the gym when I wasn't seeing the results. And it's what allowed me to understand that, you know what? I am capable of achieving this shit. I am capable of making my reality, or making the things that I dreamed of, a reality. And so, like I said, you have to take on that, acceptance of where you're at. That's the first key step. Second thing is having that motion in your life. And then third, be detached from the doubts. Be detached from those that are going to cause you to fall off your journey, your path. And once you lock in on all three of those, that's when you're actually going to become unstoppable. That's where you're going to become undeniable when it comes down to transforming and rebranding your identity. Like I say, guys, at the end of the day, you're a brand. And how you package yourself, how you treat yourself, that's what you present to the world. And the world doesn't care about, again, like I started off, the world doesn't care about your ambition. The world doesn't care about what you say you're going to do. They only care about the results. And when you have those three things locked in, you best damn believe you're going to have the results that show for it. All right, fellas. Now, if you are going through any type of, roadblocks or hard times right now, like I said, I had a heartbreak, and the heartbreak was a catalyst for me, transforming my life, getting on the right path and becoming him. And I feel like that is the same for most men. If you are going through anything to that nature, guys, I put out a lot of content on IG that is helping a plethora of people understand, hey, you know what? That person walked out of your life. That has nothing to do with you. That's not your fucking fault. Get back into the game, rewire your mindset, understand exactly why they fucking left, and realize who the fuck you are. Because in order for you to now transcend into your, the physical realm, as well as boosting up your sexual attractiveness, you have to understand exactly what happened to you and understand that this has, again, nothing to do with you. You could not have done anything better. All right. Heartbreak is always going to be the strongest form of catalyst for most men. Use that to your advantage. Instead of running away, instead of staying the same, use it to your advantage. Now, once you get that locked in, fellas, then come back over here on the channel and lock into the game. Lock into understanding how important your physique is, because I'm here to tell you, my life has completely changed once I got my physique in order. Business, relationships, as well as social status. All of that shit has changed. And it's not that, again, when I was homeless, it's not that I had that in mind that that was going to happen. It's a byproduct. It's the results. Like I said, it's guaranteed to happen when you have motion. You take accountability, you have the motion, and you detach from the doubts, the naysayers. Once you lock in on IG, come find me over there. Once you jump back over here and you lock in on the content here, you're going to have a holistic picture of what your purpose is. And you're going to start to see what that game plan looks like. Now, in terms of a game plan, my book, Becoming Him, The Manual After Losing Everything, rated number 3 on Amazon as bestsellers, is a quick read. It's one of those things where I literally wrote down what I was thinking when I was going through the toughest time of, dealing with a divorce, dealing with a discard, and then trying to find my way back into the game of life. And that is a tough spot for any man to be in. And fellas, with this book, it has allowed men to understand exactly where they're at, find that relatable information, and be able to say, you know what, I'm not alone. I am capable of changing my outcome. Fellas, don't think about buying the book, get the book, because the cost of staying the same will always outweigh the ROI in return. All right, fellas, if you are serious about trying to change and go through this path or a period of a 90-day, reconstruction, fellas, DM me on IG, the word ready. All right, fellas, I'll get back to you. What I'll do is take the time to understand where you're at and what have you worked on so far. And I'll break things down in a way to just kind of see where, what is it that you truly want to achieve after the, 90 days of working together. I have 3 spots open, fellas. So don't wait. DM me ready on IG if you are looking to work together. The first 15 minutes that we're going to do in terms of the free assessment, we'll, again, go through where you're at, understanding exactly what you're trying to accomplish. All right, fellas. Now, when it comes down to carrying on with where you're at and continuing to build that physique, fellas, you always got to understand you have to put in work. Never stop. Never stop. As always, we put in work, so let's get to work.